mute.
Okay, we'd like to start the meeting. Welcome everyone, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
The only thing pertaining to
Okay, so the first thing we'd like to do is approve the minutes from our December 23rd, 2021 meeting. Someone can make a motion for that, please.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. All right, second item that we'd like to do is based on a resolution that we have for a certificate of occupancy for 24 Remsen Street as prepared by architect Anthony Varamandos, dated September 4th, 2021. We would like to approve these plans for this resolution. Someone can make a motion.
Can I just speak? I'm sorry,
Sure.
Ms. Chairman. This
Yes.
is Village Attorney Liz Vale. I just wanted to clarify, this is the resolution regarding 24 Rysam Street. And it is seeking to approve a certificate of appropriateness with respect to the property located at 24 Rysam Street, as shown on the revised building plans prepared by Anthony Vermandois, dated September 4th, 2021. Thank you. And that's what's before the board. Thank you.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. We'll close that piece. And now I'd like to make a motion to open up the public hearing.
We're just tabling.
I know, do we have to open it?
No, the public hearing is still open.
Okay, so we're going to leave the public hearing open and we are going to table Marsden Street, 7 Marsden, 12 Marsden, and 15 Marsden until our next meeting, which will be January 27th. Okay, so if someone could make a motion for us to table it.
I'll make that motion.
Great. Someone second?
I'll second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Now we're going to move on to the consent agenda matters. If someone could make a motion to do final approval on the consent agenda. There are 2 items that we have for this week. Someone can make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
They can see you.
I'll second.
My face is right there.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Great.
Wait, who was the second on that?
Well, I
Bethany.
spoke up, but I don't know if
Bethany.
it's stuck.
Thank you. Okay. Now we are going to go to old business, which is property at 207 Main Street. Chris Coy, I believe he's with us.
They can see you.
Chris, I think you're on mute.
Very sorry. Okay. Chris Coy, Barnes Coy Architects for 207 Main Street. So I guess we are back again on the window issue. So I just wanted to know if some board members had a chance to go look at the house at 264 Main, which is the address we got from the historic window shop of a recent job they did where they put in insulated historic windows.
Yes, Chris, majority of the board did go. But the unfortunate thing is, one, given it, we didn't really have authorization to go onto the property. We couldn't look at the windows very close up front, number one. Number two, what it did look like is that the storm windows, there were storm windows on it from the outside. And so we did, several board members did go back and look because they were familiar with looking at 264 and working with 264 in the past and knew that were aware of the project and that they had replaced many of the older windows. But what seems difficult, I would say, and I'll let other board members speak as well, but today at 207 Main, when we went to go and see it, it was Bethany and Zach and myself with you and your contractor. The difference is at 207 Main, you have the windows and then you have the interior storms that are actually pretty proficient and well placed there. Whereas this example showed the exterior and you couldn't really look to see what if they had the thermal pane and what you're proposing to put in. We really don't have a good sense of what it will look like.
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole reason of going to see a site so that we can have a sense before approving anything of what the finished product will look like. So I guess my question is, and I'd love to hear any other board members' comments as well, but are they thermal pane windows that are at 264?
Yes.
And, that's what we, from the distance.
Yes, they're insulated, true divided lights made in historical manner as replacement for what was there. And
the same company, correct, Chris? The same company?
Same company, that is correct, same company, Michael Riley. And I went by the other day and I mean, honestly, you can see right through the storm windows and you can see what it is. I mean, the point of getting on the property, that sort of surprises me because I thought the whole point was what they look like from the street. I mean, normal.
Yeah, froze.
On other people's property. So if my house looks correct, if the windows are correct, then that's the thing. I mean, why would you go on somebody's property to look at their windows? I mean, I'm surprised by that.
Well, Chris, actually, what you see from the street, which I think the other board members saw, are storm windows at 264. They fill the window opening in front of the sash. They lay flush with the casing boards that define the window opening.
Right.
They are 1/1 in configuration, and they are brand new. So presumably they are thermal pane windows also, I don't know. But from the street, you can't see through them to see what the sashes actually are behind them. You simply can't. And my understanding is the reason for putting those, replacing the existing windows with thermal pane new sashes is to eliminate the need for storm windows, which visually is not as attractive as if you could actually see the windows, whether they be the old ones or the new ones. So that's why that example, it didn't present to the street the way replacement windows are going to look without storm windows.
Well, I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why the owner put the storm windows on there. The windows that were replaced are thermal pane. This is coming from the manufacturer. So they are thermal pane. So I don't know, maybe the guy wanted extra insulation on it. I don't know why, but you're right. He would not have to do that. And it would be preferable not to do that. But I mean, honestly, when I walked down there yesterday, I was able to see right through the storm windows are glass. So I was able to see the muntins through the glass quite clearly. I don't know, you know, that's the one example they gave me. So that was the only address that I could provide.
I mentioned at the last meeting that I was very interested to see the model that you had from the company. Has that model, have you brought that model so that we can look at it?
Well, apparently they don't have a 6/6 sample to give me. You know, these are custom-made windows, so that would belong to somebody else. The window that they had was a 1/1, which was useless for your purposes because it doesn't have any muntins in it. So I didn't want to show you something that really wasn't going to show you anything. We want a window with muntins so you can understand how the true divided insulated units are built. So since that's the only thing they had, and I think they misunderstood what I was asking for, I don't have that. So that's why they then gave me the address of 264 Main and told me that those are insulated true divided light units that were recently done. So,
I mean,
you know,
is it possible to make an arrangement like we make appointments? Could the board come and actually get to see the windows at 264?
Well, yeah, I'd have to dig into that. I mean, I was not the architect there, so I don't even know who the owner is. I don't know really anything about that job. The address was given to me by the window manufacturer. I could go back through him and see if we could, you know, but I mean, here's the thing. Custom-made windows are made according to the architect's drawings. So in my drawings that you have in front of you there, I draw the proposed window. That's what they have to make. And that's what the window will look like. I have a section, I have an elevation. It's very detailed with dimensions. So, I mean, usually this is what we've done in other historic districts. You know, they look at that and they say, okay, this is what it's got to be. And it's nailed down in the shop drawings. You know, when the manufacturer provides shop drawings for us to review and approve, that's where we would pick up any possible discrepancies in how they're going to make it and make sure that it, you know, the product matches our design. I mean, if we didn't do that, you know, we wouldn't continue to be hired by people.
Sure.
So,
if I could just jump in, and I don't want to talk too much because Jean's the chair, but I just want to make a point that, you know, let's look at a mantelpiece. It's a federal period mantelpiece, and now we're making a replica. If you look at the two side by side, one will look old, the other will look new. Let's say we have a door. We have a 6-panel federal period door that's paneled and it's been painted, but it's gone through a history of 200 years. You have a period door and you have a new door, which has been made to the architect's drawing precisely to his or her specifications and to match the old. An unaccustomed person would look at the two and say, oh, that's the old one. That's the new one. So the point I feel here is it's not so much getting the configuration of the panes right. Okay. It's, you know, what will the appearance of this look like from the street? Because this is an old house and it's going to have new windows in it. And so looking at those things through a storm window to say, oh yeah, well, there's 6/1, so that's the way we designed it. That doesn't answer the question. Do these windows in fact look so new and so, I don't know, incompatible with a historical building that the aesthetic is off? When I parked my car at the house next south from 264 to make my walk up the street, it's a smaller Queen Anne period house with lovely windows, which are intact, they're original to the period. And my first reaction to that was, wow, those are lovely. Those are the original window sashes, and that's what you can see from the sidewalk. And that contributes to its, you know, street frontage. It just does. So it's not a question of pane configuration. It's like, what is the ultimate effect of replacing old windows with new ones? And I think this board is concerned about the appearance.
Well, and I take your point. As I keep saying, I live right here, about 100 feet away from the subject property. Right. And you know, so I equally have a stake in this. And you know, if you like a couple of years ago, I repainted my house, which is all white, and of course, repainted the windows, repainted the siding. So after that job is done, it looks pretty new. I mean, it looks good. And anybody who maintains their house will do that. So you could take those old windows that you walked by and were so charming and repaint them. Maybe they have to be painted next year. Whenever they need to be repainted, they'll be repainted. And right after that, they'll look new. So, I mean, in this house, even, you know, in the subject house, we're replacing it. We're replacing
the glass in the old windows is completely different from the glass in the new window. And you can tell by the light reflecting off the pane that that is perfect, excellent, brand new glass. Old glass is wavy. It has little bubbles and little spots in it. And it is to be preserved at all costs, if possible.
At all costs, if possible, I agree. And in this case, the windows don't keep the weather out. They don't keep the rain out. They don't keep the wind out. And I think anybody is entitled to have windows in his house that keeps the weather out. So what we're trying to do is work with the board here to preserve this piece of history in Sag Harbor, which we couldn't be more in favor of. We're on the same page, but provide the owner with a window that functions to keep the weather out. Now, what I'm saying is that in this subject house, we're also proposing to replace the aluminum siding with new cedar siding. So when that is first replaced, and everybody agrees that's a good idea, the aluminum siding is dented and it's obviously not original. You can see the seams in it and stuff. So that's always a good idea. So we're going to do that. Now, when that is first done, that's going to look brand new too. I mean, there's almost, you know, if you maintain a house at certain periods, it will look fresh and bright. And then as it ages, yes. And I know what you're saying, Judith, about the glass. I have that glass in my own house. But, you know, in this case, the windows are so shot that, you know, they had to, when I was there with Jean and Bethany and Zach the other day, we went into the master bedroom where these interior storm units have been placed. And, you know, they're very effective in keeping out the weather. But we all remarked that we felt like we were in a hermetically sealed chamber. You can't open the windows. It's a very unsettling feeling. So that's not really a way to live. That was done as a temporary measure so that people could work in there and not freeze to death. So when we stood in front of some of the other windows that didn't have the storm panels, like downstairs in the living room, you could feel the wind coming in. You could feel the damp wind coming in. So, I mean, the fact that we have to do something with these. Now, I think that, you know, what Dennis tried to do, the previous owner, he put storm screens on the outside, which is a solution in practical terms, but, you know, that's probably the least historic thing he could do because those were aluminum storm screens and everybody would agree, you know, those really have to be removed. So once we remove those, my suggestion is that if we have insulated, historically built windows, then all you got to do in the summertime, in the winter, you don't have to do anything. I agree. You don't need another storm panel on there. They do the job. And then in the summer, you put a full screen on there, which you can look right through and see the historic window, but you can open the window and get some fresh air. And that's what I do on my house. And when the screens are on, if you don't look twice, you don't even know they're on. You look right through them and see the historic window. So we just need to get to a point here where we make a common sense decision to say, well, look, how's it going to look from the street? Now, if you stand and stop in front of a house and, you know, to Judith's point, yeah, you can see the sun reflecting differently on the wavy glass than on the new glass. It is true. But, you know, does that mean that this guy is not allowed to have insulated glass in his house? You know, if you're walking by and in every other respect, the house respects its history and the units are historically built, then I think that, you know, that's maybe a common sense decision.
Can I hate to repeat myself because I just want to state again for the record, I believe that energy efficiency and the things that you're striving for on behalf of your client are appropriate. That being said, the way I'm hearing the question I'm hearing before us is that you're asking us to start a new precedent in terms of window replacement in historic buildings within this CLG. In your earlier comments, it seems that you referred to other CLGs that does allow it. But since I've been on the board about 4 years now, we've not made that exception. Is that what you're asking us to do? Because I think to some extent, a lot of us agree that it makes sense to be energy efficient. But are you asking us to break precedent in terms of the standards that we've applied for the village? Is that the question?
Can I answer that question? It's Dennis Downs. I don't know if you can hear me.
I'd be happy to hear his answer before I hear yours.
Okay.
Oh, is that, you want to hear my answer before Dennis's?
Please.
Oh, sure, yeah. Well, no, I'm not asking the village board to break with precedent at all. I have seen other projects where insulated units have been permitted. So I don't think that's a huge precedent breaker here. I think as long as the unit is made in historical fashion and it's the correct period of history, which Zach is going to comment on. For example, the new windows on the Boulevard watch case factory. There's an example. I mean, yeah, they're very nice. Are they what was there originally? No. But was it practical to put back what was there original? Also no. So I think there's an example of a common sense decision. Now, I don't think that wrecked the landscape.
Was that landmarked or historic under the historic designation? I don't think so.
Landmark building.
It was landmarked, sure.
Yeah.
Sure it was.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
I think
it's a historic building in the historical district.
Yeah, Beth was the only one that was on the board at the time Boulevard was done. And if you recall, the gentleman from Albany, who's with the Historic Preservation in Albany, he came down twice to talk to the board about the fact that it was permissible for them to have the windows that they were proposing. The same holds true with the Methodist Church that Eric Fischel converted to the Art Center. Those windows are all replacement windows. I believe they did theirs in wood as opposed to the metal casement. But I just wanted to make one comment just to correct the record. I did not install aluminum storm windows on that house. It was on that house when I bought it, and it was my understanding from speaking to Mr. Rhodes, who lived in that house and grew up there, that they were installed prior to his father's purchase of the property. So it would have been early 1950s. Those aluminum storm windows are not worth the money they spent on them. They're not thermopane. They're single glass. The wind blows right through them, and then it blows right through the 2/2 windows. Now the 2/2 windows, I told you, I went through a lot of expense sanding them all down, rebuilding the sashes and such, so that they would be a little more tighter. And then in the wintertime, we were captive to whatever, until the winter was over with. We caulked each window on the inside. We put plastic on the windows on the inside, and still we got air coming through because it leaks right through between where the two panes of glass come together and there's a mullion. The air comes right through it, and we caulked all of that. But if you got a pinhole, the air is going to find its way through. And those windows are no longer functional. If you look at the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines, they say if these windows are not functional, they should be changed, and preferably changed with something that is thermopane, where you've got protection, so you're using less energy to heat the house in the wintertime and to cool it in the summertime.
Yeah, we have the language from the Secretary of the Interior relevant sections. Mikey, you want to put that up? Can we share a screen and put that up for a second?
That would be interesting.
Okay.
I have it myself. I'm looking at it right now.
Well, whoever would like to put it up, we've outlined the relevant sections. Mikey, you want to get that up on the screen?
Sure.
Maybe...
I'd like to see it.
Mikey, do you have permission to share the screen?
Yes, here we are.
Okay. Okay, so here we've outlined one of the relevant sections. So compatible seems to be one of the key words here, and also matching the appearance, size, design, proportion, and profile of the existing historic windows. So, when existing windows are too deteriorated to repair. Now,
I think that's the caveat here, because the context of this standard is understood entirely to be within that ending phrase, when the windows are too deteriorated to repair. Those of us who have been in the business of restoring and repairing old buildings for 40 or more years can very quickly tell the difference between windows that are too deteriorated to repair and those that aren't. And I would humbly submit that these sashes that we're looking at, they may rattle in the breeze, but I don't know what your definition of deterioration is, whether you're saying that their weatherproofing capability has deteriorated, or whether the wooden sashes themselves, but we can't mince words. I think that's all about understood within the context of when the fabric is so far gone that it is unreasonable to warrant repair, not replacement, then replacement is warranted. So I don't feel that this is an appropriate citation.
Well, here's the thing, though, Zach. I think that I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, the sashes, the movable sashes of the double hungs in that house have shrunk to the point that they do rattle in the breeze within the sash guides on the jambs. And so, if you were going to make them weather tight, you'd actually have to rebuild them, which means you're replacing the sashes. So, I mean, you can't add pieces of wood in there. So you'd have to actually replace those sashes, build new ones, and put them in. So now you're getting involved in basically replacing the windows anyway. So I think that we do meet this standard because existing windows are too deteriorated in terms of keeping the weather out, which I think is what windows really should do. That's one of the reasons for a window. So I think that we would be we'd be consistent with what the interior of the department language is calling for here. And again, I don't think that you're destroying the landscape of future applications by a precedent that can't be sustained. I think it's normal for anybody who has windows that don't keep the weather out to ask if they can repair them if they are compatible, as it says here, and match the appearance, size, design, proportion, and profile of the existing historic windows. Those are the standards we are trying to meet, and we will meet them.
The higher standard, which is immediately above, which is the more preferable before you get to installing compatible, is installing interior. These are in stages, right? This is going from best to worst. Installing storm windows or panels that are compatible with the existing historic windows. That would be the better choice because that's presented as the better solution before you get to the replacement thing. I mean, that's the way these standards are represented. Repair what you can.
Come up against but we come up against a life safety issue here because in bedrooms especially, you need two means of egress. One is the door you came in the room in. The other is a window. So, it's preferable to jump out the window than to burn. So if you've got storm panels on there, you can't open the window. So, I mean, I guess you could break the window, but, in case of a child or something, it's, that is something that would give me pause. So, I think that the more sensible, common sense approach is to allow the use of correctly made insulated units. Then we don't have to look through. I mean, you saw for yourself at 264, you said you couldn't even see the windows once the guy put up the storm windows. I mean, isn't that worse than looking at a nicely made historic window that also happens to be insulated?
Anyway,
I have a comment I'd like to make. Zach, are we talking about maintaining the 2x2s that are there now or going to the 6x6s? Because as I understood it from the last several meetings, you didn't want the 2x2s because you said they were replacements in the 1870s.
No, never said that. That's your misunderstanding of what I said.
That house, the 2x2s were 1870 windows, if I understood correctly.
That house was built let us say 1790 in the federal period. And we can all do our
Not
best.
that house. No, not the first house was built in 1789.
Okay. I can't, this is not the time for us to go back and forth, Gene. But what I simply said is that the 2/2 sashes date from the Victorian period. And when you look at the house from the street, you can see that that was not the only improvement that the owner at that point made. They also refashioned the cornice of the roof line up overhead with overhanging and bracketed eave that was quite decorative and appropriate to that Victorian era. They also constructed the cover to the entryway, which gave it a very Victorian sort of appearance to the street. And they threw out the old door and they replaced the door with a modern door from the 1870s. It was a total cosmetic overhaul of this earlier house, regardless of what decade you want to put it into. So the point is, what is consistently true about that house is that it's an earlier house which was considerably updated in the Victorian period. And I think the only point I'm trying to make is that the 2/2 sash are very much a part of the work that was done at that point and have therefore become a part of the history of the house. So
the original house was a one-story house.
We're not talking about the evolution of the building here.
The building that's there now was built after 1812.
No, we're not talking about.
It did not have a porch.
We're not talking about the
shutters.
Anecdotal history of the house. We're talking about.
Well, I know a lot more about the house than you do. I'm sorry, but I lived in it for 18 years.
I can't say anything.
Dennis, we appreciate the history that you know of the house. We do know it was initially a one floor, and then when it became what it currently looks like, which was approximately 1870, a lot of changes were made to the house. And at that point, as Zach pointed out, the entryway with the porch, the door, with the 2x2, the roof line, all those things are now what we currently look at. That is what's in the National Registry documentation with the 2x2. We are debating two things right now. One, do we think the windows are substantial enough to be able to maintain with and maybe go with an interior storm as they have put in? I know Chris said that was just temporary, but is that a solution? Or are we going to go and approve thermal panes for, as we know, efficiency, but it is a last stop option for what we do with windows from a historical preservation standpoint. The other thing is, we don't know exactly what these windows are going to look like because we haven't been able to really look at a 2x2 to see what it would be. And I understand Chris has tried to get samples for us to look at as we've requested. And it's kind of surprising to me that Riley doesn't have a sample of a 2x2 in a house somewhere in this area that we could really be able to see, because it's very hard for the board to approve that new windows, as they would be custom and energy efficient, which that would be the only way we would want them to go in. We just need to see what they look like to be able to feel comfortable. The other part that was discussed when we met is what the Secretary of Interior does recommend is that if we were to approve on the front that we could put in the thermal panes, once we know exactly what they look like, that there would be documentation of the house of existing windows that are there so that history is preserved. We talked about that with Chris, maybe on the side, maybe in the back, you have a couple of the existing windows so that we have that history preserved. Those are the things that I think we as a board need to vote on and determine. But, and I'd like to ask if any other board members have a point to make, but truly, Chris, we need to see a sample, not just a drawing, because this is a big step to go from a house. And we're not going to go back to the original 1789 because we know that's not there anymore. We are now looking at the 70 to 80 rendition that it is today. So Chris, unfortunately, we come back to you for what the windows we would be approving are actually going to look like. Can we see a sample in a house, or can you have one made so that we can feel comfortable?
Well, I will do what I can. Having a sample made is, as I pointed out when we were together the other day, they're about $5,000 each to make these windows. So they're not going to do that. But I could even go to another historic window shop and see if they have something. Riley isn't the only shop that does this. Let me see what I can find. I will make every effort to find you a window that you could actually see. If that appears that that's going to do it, or I'll see if they, maybe this guy didn't look into his archives enough, that maybe there's some other, I assume that a historic house in another district wouldn't be of any use for you to look at, correct?
I mean, if there is example of their windows in Southampton or East Hampton, we would work with you to be able to understand this. I believe. Board members, do you?
I agree.
I agree.
Okay,
So
well, that
we are trying to work with you.
Okay, yeah, no, that opens the field a lot more because there are a lot more projects outside of the village of Sag Harbor. So let me see what we can turn up.
Okay, and we would like you to think about having some windows in the house that you would preserve so that we have that documentation, which is a part of the responsibility from the Secretary of Interior.
Okay. I can't help but think that, in the case of those houses on Church Street that belong to the watch case factory rehabilitation, those windows are vinyl clad. Those are not, now I know that probably all the present board members were not on the board at that time.
Are you talking about the new houses, Chris?
They're all new.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
The new houses.
See, the new houses, it's apples and oranges. You're not right. You know what I'm saying? It's not a historic.
No,
house.
I know there was nothing there to be preserved. Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
But
the factory was one thing. There was a lot of deterioration. There was a lot of destruction that had been done there.
Oh, the factory was shot. Yeah.
Right. So the houses are all brand new. It's as Bethany said, and so I think we know what the next steps are, that we need you to help us make a final decision for you. And we hope that we can do that as soon as we can.
Can we get approval on the rest of the submission? There's a lot more in there besides the windows.
Right.
Is that possible, or it doesn't work that way?
Right.
Because this is going on so long, it's causing the owner hardship. His builder is like in a state of suspended animation, and we're trying to move the project along.
So are you talking about the exterior, the removing the aluminum siding?
Well, there's that, and yeah, there's that, and the rehabilitation of the red shed.
Right.
Right. Well, we could actually vote on just the shed. How do you need that?
I mean, it happened with John in the past, but this is where things get through.
Right. If we move ahead with the shed, which I think we were all in agreement with before, not for you to take it down, but to extend it or make an addition, I believe. That's what you were trying to do for the pool equipment, if that's correct.
Yeah, there was a tiny bump out on the east, on the east side. Most of the pool equipment was remaining inside the shed, but we had to accommodate some valve bodies and some piping and stuff So we had this, it's on the drawing there in the proposed, we have this tiny bump out, which does not, by the way, touch the ground. It's cantilevered above the ground. So should not be a coverage issue. And I just want everybody to understand that, you know, I never gave any direction for that shed to be taken down. That was a misunderstanding on the builder's part. I was giving him instructions about how to do the rehabilitation of the red siding when we got the permit, when we got to that point, that we're going to carefully remove the boards, put them through a surface planer and straighten them up. And I don't know why he misunderstood this, but he then, the next thing I knew, I was getting a call from Chris Talbot that he took the thing down, which I was horrified when I went over there, as I'm sure all of you were, but that was not at anybody's direction. So I apologize that happened, but it certainly
Chris,
wasn't for.
It is going to be rebuilt with the same boards, correct?
Yes,
except
yes.
Except for what's going to be extended.
Right, I had
but it'll match it. That's what I read when I looked at the plans. And
it's true. I had a conversation with Chris Talbot. So he went over there and he saw that the builder had carefully stockpiled all the original materials and protected them from the weather under a tarp. And we are going to rebuild it with those same materials. So actually, you know, the way I look at it, we are given this chance to preserve this historic little art shed and straighten it up and make it better able to carry on into the future as a piece of the history of this historic triangle here, right next to the Whaling Museum and the Customs House and the library and everything. It's an important little building. A lot of people don't know all the history behind it. It's really interesting. So actually, when we're done, it's going to be good for another couple of 100 years, but it's going to be using the same exact materials.
What do you mean by straighten it up?
Well, it was leaning over. It was being pushed over by that big tree.
Yeah, I know, but I thought that was very charming. Is there some way you can preserve that?
Well, it's charming, but it's eventually going to be so charming it's going to fall over. So I mean, you know, stuff like that.
Okay.
Stuff like that has to be, you know, it's got to be maintained. So all we were doing was straightening up the structure, using all the pieces of the existing structure, except the ones that were so rotted that they crumbled away in your hand. I mean, there are some timbers that literally were crumbling away in our hands, and they'll be replaced. But in like kind with timber, you know, not with lumberyard lumber, but with timber, you know, that we can buy from any number of these reclaimed timber places, like the one in Wainscott comes to mind. You know, we know those guys. So anyway, but in 99% of it's going to be the pieces that the builder took apart and stockpiled under the tarp. And Chris Talbot photographed them. He documented them. You can go over to his office and see the photographs. You know, he's aware of what's happening. Where we saved the windows there. Speaking of windows, so we saved those windows, and they are going to be reused. So those exact windows that are in there, because there's no heat in there, so there's no energy conservation issue. So we're just going to put those windows straight back in there.
Okay. So I would say we could vote as a board, and I know you made the changes on the dormers from the front to the back, and so we've done that. We can vote on that, and if we agree that you can proceed with that, I have to say we would still have to talk to the building inspector to see if he's going to issue a permit, a piecemeal permit. Okay, I can't, we can say from a certificate of appropriateness that we are agreeing, but we would need to have that conversation. So I just want to be completely transparent.
Yeah, no, we still need a permit. Yes.
Right.
For those parts.
Right.
Correct.
So we could, at this point, we would be voting on working on the shed.
And the dormers.
As well as
the dormer in the back.
In the rear.
In the back.
As are currently submitted in the proposal.
Correct.
And that, so if someone would like to make a motion for us to.
Chris, there's also.
Could I ask a question?
Also another door. Sorry, go ahead.
I have to ask a question. My question is, as part of that, could also the aluminum siding come off?
There's already a permit to remove the aluminum siding.
Okay,
I got
so
that.
that's
I got that
taken
years
care of.
ago.
Good.
Years ago, you approved me to, you allowed me to replace it. I just never
Excellent,
got to
excellent.
it.
Okay, thank you.
But Chris, don't forget the doorway going out onto the patio on the ground floor.
Yes, but well, yeah, that's in the drawing. So you know,
I know,
that's
but they didn't mention it. They were just saying the dormers and the shed.
Application, yeah, it's on the application submission. There's a new French door being proposed in the back that would connect the living room to the rear patio. You can see that in the elevations, in the proposed elevations.
Let me just ask Dennis a question. You said you secured permit to remove the aluminum siding. Dennis, are you sure that permit hasn't expired?
I'm sure it's expired by now, but I would hope that you would reissue it.
Then if we are going to do a motion, we should include that in this motion so that you don't have to do a separate.
So you don't have to come back again.
Right.
But I'm sorry, the issue at hand is that the application was not made for aluminum siding. So that's not in front of you right now. It's not on the application.
There's a note on the drawings. I mean, everything that's on the drawing, sometimes it's not written in the application, but the drawings serve as the submission documents. So that note is on the drawings, on the proposed elevations.
Yep.
Can you just clarify what is it you're going to remove and replace with? You said, oh, I'm sorry. You're going to replace with clapboard siding?
Yes, cedar clapboards, yes.
Okay.
And Chris, you know that when you take, do you know what's under the aluminum siding?
Right.
More clapboard.
What is that, Dennis?
We don't really know yet. Dennis, you've never
I know
seen
because
it, right?
I removed some of the aluminum siding, which is on the back of the house. We redid the back of the house with clapboard, and under it is the studs and the insulation that I put in the walls, and that's it. And also the sheathing that we had to put on the back of the house.
So we don't have a specification for the clapboard on the front or the sides.
The two sides in the front weren't touched. Yes, correct.
So until the aluminum siding is removed, you won't see what the specification is for those boards.
What you mean? Well, the cedar clapboards would just go directly onto the substrate.
No, I'm not talking about replacing. Why do those clapboards need? I mean, you haven't opened up. What we talked about on site the other day was if you have the idea of taking the aluminum off, which would be a good thing, the first step is to see what's underneath it.
Yes,
I've done that
before. On the front?
On all four sides. When I was deciding whether or not I was going to change it, if I had the funds to do it, we went and we pulled pieces up and looked underneath, and it was all the same. It's a greenish white clapboard. It's got so much paint on it, and most of the clapboard was cracked in many places beyond where you put it.
So that has to now. That was then. Now that investigation, a minimal one in some strategic area, has to be done so that you determine the condition of the existing siding, so that you can make a case for needing to replace it, or simply cleaning it up and redoing it. And in any event, a specification for the actual whether the exposure of those clapboards needs to be represented on the drawings. Now, it's what we're seeing is an aluminum sided house. So I don't think you're quite there yet. I mean, that's what a little investigation would.
We could expose some areas.
Yeah,
we could
I think that's the normal, normal sequence here.
We can do that.
Take them off and
you do that on all four sides of the house, please.
What you got? Yeah. I mean, if you're going to, honestly, if you're going to remove the aluminum siding, I would say take it all off and then repair, or see what shape your boards are in. And there might be some that you need to replace. You might not need to replace them all, but I mean, it's an investigation, and I don't see any point in just taking off parts of them. I would just take it all off so you can really see. We can all see.
Well, yeah, that's a construction sequence issue involved there. I wouldn't like to take it all off until we have the replacement clapboards delivered to the site, because we don't want to leave the house exposed to the weather, especially in the winter. So well, I think
it hasn't been decided that you are going to in fact replace. You might just sand them down and they may be fine.
Well, true. That's why I'd like to just take off some representative areas so that we're not opening the house up.
That's what you think.
That's fair. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So unfortunately, the application wasn't written properly, and it's not right for it to be assumed that an old permit will absolutely be approved. It should have been documented in the application. So, which I agree, Chris, that you have it in the drawings, but something as important as that should be written in the application. So if we are going to make a motion tonight, we will need to make a motion to remove a part of the aluminum to see what the existing looks like, and that will be then determined whether it would be restored or replaced by new cedar clapboard. That will have to be documented. Number two.
And then we could approve the dormers and the shed, correct?
We could then approve the dormers and the shed.
Okay.
So now, this is not the way we like to normally do it, because this is when it causes problems. We are trying to work with you. You need to understand that if we vote to do this, we are going out of sequence, and we really need you to do what you're permitted to do.
Okay.
And that's all. You got to make sure that the crew understands.
Well, I'm going to sit on this guy now. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair.
Yes.
May I make a motion?
Yes, please.
I move that, subject to receipt of a revised application with a complete scope of work for the facade of the building, that we move to approve the applicant in the interim can do some investigative probes to remove as much aluminum siding as necessary to, one, determine the condition of the underlying clapboards and how they can be replaced, maintained, or repaired. Two, that the applicant can rebuild what is being referred to as the red shed with pre-existing reclaimed wooden materials in addition as necessary to its original dimensions, with the addition, whatever the addition size is, I don't know, someone needs to tell me that. And finally, that the applicant be permitted to proceed with the dormers as they were represented in the original application.
In the back.
In the back.
Very good, Steve. Thank you.
Do we have a second?
I'll second. Whatever.
All in
Chris,
favor?
does that include? Sorry, Chris, does that include the French door, or is that a later date?
Oh, we forgot about that.
Well, I think we should include the French door. That's pretty, pardon the pun, but that's pretty open and shut part of the application.
Madam Chair, can I amend my amendment to my motion? I'm sorry, to include the French doors.
So there are 4 items.
Yes.
Right.
And
the siding, the shed, the dormers, and the French door.
Correct.
And now I would like to, just in the interest of not leaving something out, there is a small back door in that little, what used to be the old kitchen way in the back. There's a small back door. You'll see it in the proposed elevation there, just to make sure we don't leave that out. It's just an addition of a small back door to get in and out from the, because there's a pool there now where there didn't used to be a pool. So they just wanted to add that little door so that somebody could go in and use that powder room that's in there without traipsing through the house.
Okay.
Okay, number 5,
Chris,
back door.
So Chris, as Mr. Williams began the motion, he said this would be subject to a receipt for you to update the language in the application because it's a lot of changes. So if you could put that detail of the French door, the back door, not just what's on the plans, but write that out. You can submit
Into
that
the application.
You can't change it, the application, really.
Can't?
Because he signed it.
I know. So we made changes there.
Not you're not supposed to do that again. Once it's done, it's done.
But it's like when I approve it.
Just write it in here. Don't include it on here, write it down there in the approval.
So I actually will document all of this in the application. And again, we just need for the future, for all architects, lawyers, and contractors, if they would please put that detail in there so we have this clarity and we don't need to take the time to then flesh out each of the drawing items. It needs to be detailed in the application to make it easier for the board to understand what we are approving.
Okay.
I hope that makes sense. Right, so
Sure.
I will document it. And again,
thank you.
We are going to vote all in favor.
Was it seconded, or you want me to amend it one more time?
Oh, sorry. Did we, Bethany? Oh, I thought Bethany and Judith.
Bethany,
both.
yes, both.
Yeah, it was already.
Judith and I.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
now
we'll second the amended one.
Yes, with the 5 items that I will do.
Yes, the 5 items.
So,
yeah.
Can we have a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Now, sorry,
again,
I just want, just to be clear, from the building department's point, no work can commence until you obtain a building permit.
Of course.
Okay, just so we're clear.
Sure.
Right, and that we will have a discussion with the building inspector tomorrow to make sure that he's okay with making this partial approval for the building permit, and we will still determine where we're going with the windows. And we will still determine what the state of the clapboard behind the aluminum is. And
yes.
We will review that at that point. Okay,
very
so
good.
Everyone is in full agreement with where we are.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a nice night.
Thanks.
Thank you for your time.
I'm not
Oh, nice.
That's what I mean. Okay. So now we can go to new business. Yep. 6 Rector Street. Charlie McCarran. So Charlie, if you can unmute.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening, Charlie.
Good evening.
So Charlie, you want to?
Okay. I don't know where to start, but I'm going to start by the last meeting we had with Gene, you and Zach.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm just going to go over the points that you made that day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know if you have a copy of this.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm just going to run over. I'm just going to run through them quick. Okay.
Yep.
So the first one, the porch roof to be covered with turn metal or standing seam to be painted at owner's direction. I agree to that. Porch floor to consist of boards, Trex or equivalent is satisfactory for new construction, running perpendicular to front wall to be supported by wooden plate secured to masonry front wall and wood girder resting on poured concrete retaining wall. I agree to that. Porch floor to be continuous and uninterrupted across entire surface without step up or change of level between areas opposite front door and side windows. I agree to that. Front door and door surround to be preserved and restored. Moldings to be reattached to estrabula above doorway and missing elements to replace. I agree to that. Front steps to be wooden painted. I agree to that. Porch railing to be made of wood spindles, square in section. I agree to that.
It's being recorded.
Pardon me?
Go ahead. That was
okay. All right.
That was a robot.
There's more. Poured concrete footings to be base finished with square wood lattice, except against side wall of cellar stairs, which should be faced with brick. I agree to that. Steps leading to cellar entryway to be a brick capped with stone or owner's discretion. I agree to that. Brick and block infill to remove from cellar door and 2 window openings. I agree to that. Cellar door and window frames to be reconstructed to match existing historic fabric. I agree to that. Cellar door to be recycled 1840 exterior type panel board or door or equivalent. I agree to that. Cellar window sash to be 6/6 to match cellar windows on side wall. I agree to that. So speaking of windows, which we just spent an hour talking about, today my grandson and I just removed 2 old windows from the back of the house, which actually was the furnace room. And we're going to be installing those old windows hopefully tomorrow if it's not raining. So that's number 1. We'll go back a little bit. The steps leading to the cellar area. What I did is I used the we have the steps. I have a picture of it in my phone, but I don't think you're going to be able to send it. We used the old stone from the old steps, and the mason did a great job. You really have to go by and see it. And he recreated those steps exactly the way they were before. What they did is, of course, you have to make the steps 8 inches. So we took the stone, and they weren't 8 inches, and then he put brick underneath it, just exactly the way it was before. So
Charlie,
I agree to.
Is this in the back or the front?
In the front.
Okay.
It's the stairs
I don't mean to interrupt, but do we have a drawing that we can see? Heather, do you have a drawing you can put up? Because this is a lot of description, but we're not seeing anything.
Well, it was
you're gonna have to give me a minute. So
Okay,
let him
thanks.
continue.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you continue.
So that's 11 points that we went over. I agreed to everything, and actually, did a little extra. Now, the one thing that I can't do, and if you look on the original drawings that my architect, who I paid thousands of dollars to do, and there was a reason why he did this. It's the other is the porch roof supported by 4 evenly spaced posts. I can't do that. Why can't I do that? Because we had to step the porch back 2 feet from the edge of the house. So when he did that, he didn't want a post in the middle of one of the windows. in order to make them evenly spaced, you'd have to have the post not only on the first floor of the house, but also the basement windows, which are directly below the first floor windows. So you'd be looking through when you look out the windows of the house, you'd be looking at a post. So he didn't think that was right. So that's why those posts, if you look on the drawing, the new drawing and the old drawing, that's why he put the posts there. Now, if the porch had to go, if you made the porch go all the way to the end of the house, it's possible it would have worked out, but you wouldn't be able, wouldn't have been enough height. When you go down the stairs, you'd be hitting your head on the porch. So that's why the architect did it that way. And I didn't understand it at first. And then because sometimes when you go to a job and you say, we're going to have enough, height to get down those stairs without hitting your head. My solution initially was to raise the part of the porch. And Zach knew that. And, that's why he said that in the notes, that he wanted the porch to be even all the way across. So, but that's fine. I agreed to that. We did that. You just had to step the porch back 2 feet from the edge of the house. So, and now that he has the steps in there already, you can see that it's going to be fine.
Okay, so this is why we need to be looking at drawings, because the board can't really visualize.
Well, Heather's working on it.
Okay, fine. I'm not criticizing. I'm simply saying that discussion can really only take place constructively if you have drawings to look at. But I didn't get, Charlie, from what you just said, I didn't get any understanding of why your architect says that the porch has to be stepped back from the sides of the building. What is the reason for that?
Well, you don't, because we're almost on the property line on the side of the building.
Okay. So if that prevents it from happening, then we have to call into question whether the porch can be built. It's not like it has to be, and therefore the things that aren't consistent have to kind of fall into line.
We're past that. We're past that. You agreed that the porch is fine, the full porch on the front of the house.
All right, so let's just say the devil's in the details. The porch can't be whatever it ends up needing to be because of 101 other reasons for why it can't be this, that, or the other. Because what you're building, what you have proposed from the very beginning, is to restore the porch. It can't just be whatever kind of a porch sort of kind of fits, and that's not what this is about. This is a listed contributing building. And the premise has been that you're restoring, meaning reconstructing a feature that you believe to have been there from the beginning. And you were asked to present the evidence to support that.
I did.
Now, I think that's still in question because we saw the stone foundation exposed out from the front wall of the house into the areaway, which would have been where people would have walked back and forth underneath the porch. That appears to have not been structurally compatible. So I don't think we've proven anything here. And
in fact, I have a plans here.
Yeah.
Approved, okay. Approved.
Thank you, Heather.
And it shows the front porch.
Okay, there's a hipped roof on that porch, which is totally incompatible with the period of this house. That's not what it should have. That porch roof should be a shed roofed porch that comes off the front wall of the house and extends all the way from one end to the other. Your architect has it recessed about a foot from the left and about 2.5 feet from the right. He's making this up. This looks like a porch that was built in the 1930s. So that's
not a problem. We can do a shed roof. The reason we made it a hip roof is because when I stood there with the builder, he said, this roof would look a lot better if it had a hip roof. And there's a lot of hip roofs in Sag Harbor on houses.
But that's not restoration. That's a design judgment on your part. There's nothing wrong with a hip roof. I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm saying you're presenting this project as the restoration of a historical element. And with that as a premise, you can't just make it be whatever you would like to see. That's not a thing. The rationale for doing this in the first place is that it complies with the other structural evidence that you have, which is amazingly the doorway into the cellar area under that stoop. It's the only one in town. And so this is potentially a very wonderful and important project.
We can stop talking about that. I'll do a shed roof. Fine. That's fine. So we have
my role is to advise the board on what's appropriate. They can take my advice or not as they see fit. I'm simply saying that that's what ought to be, that's what this project ought to be about. That's
fine. So we have 13 points. You just added another one. I've agreed to all 13 out of 14. That's pretty good.
I love, Charlie, we went however long ago when we first came and you gave us a tour in the basement and everything, and how, you talked about how you discovered that there had been a doorway underneath that, and so that was the whole point of all of this. So I trust, I know that you were excited as I was about the door, but like when I look at this, this picture that I'm looking at, I don't see the door underneath.
Well, you know what's going to happen, Beth, is when this is all said and done, you won't see the door.
No, I understand that. I understand that. I know what you're saying. I know, but I don't know like where the door is going. According to this, whether I see it from the street or not. Is that, you know what I'm saying?
The drawing that shows the door. Do they not?
Well, the door into the basement is directly under the door on the first floor of the house.
So it's going to be under the porch.
Yes.
It's under the stairs. It's under the stairs.
The entrance. Okay. So somebody can draw that, right? He'll draw, your architect can draw that in there or whatever.
Sure.
Because I mean, right now you would never know. I only knew it because of, conversation we've had and that we went and saw where they had bricked it up. But according to this, you don't see it.
Well, that drawing should be a part of the submission, is the elevation of that doorway under the stoop, because it's this elevation is what it is. It shows the front as it presents itself, but there's that additional detail of the door itself, which is hidden from this perspective. That also needs to be drawn and presented for you to see and judge.
I mean, I can see, Zach, I can see where the windows are. The two little windows,
can see those, right? Because you can see the front foundation, but you can't see the front foundation under the stoop. It's hidden. And that should be drawn. That should be a part of the, the final drawing.
Right.
So that, because there's a lot of details, it's not there. It's just going to be a hole. What's going to happen now is that the concrete block and whatever was used to fill that hole up will be removed, and it will end up being an opening in the foundation. But all the wood, the framing, the doorway, all that has to be rebuilt. And so you'll want to see some details on that.
Okay.
Pretty simple.
Charlie, do you have the door that will be in the garden level?
I don't, because Jean gave me a list of 2 different places where I can go to. They sell historic doors. One was in Hudson, New York, and the other was in near the ferry somewhere.
Bridgeport, Connecticut. Yeah.
But I've been a little busy with this, and I also have 2 other houses I'm working on. So I've been a little busy. I can't really get to Hudson, New York right away. So, but this project's not going to be done until April anyway, because I stopped everybody because I don't have a building permit, and so we won't be doing that porch until, in April sometime.
Okay.
So we have plenty of time, except I'm going away for 2 months. So.
Okay, so I think then the changes that we will need you to do for the existing drawing is to show us a flat roof as discussed, so that it is consistent with the with the time when this house was built. And
So-
as you know, Charlie, we are very happy with all the work you are doing to restore this.
It's going to be magnificent. It really is. It's going to be beautiful compared to, you know,
Yeah.
Well,
those aluminum things that went over the windows and stuff. I mean, it's great.
If you have the time to go by, we've already have the steps in that go down to under the porch. They're already in because, you know, we use the old stones. So, I mean, the guy did a great job.
Okay, and we very
So
much.
I don't know how we're gonna draw the door because like I just told you, you do not see the door from the street that goes to the basement. So it's gonna be like he's gonna show it on this plan right here.
Right.
Although you really can't see it in real life.
Right, but
you know
it is going to be
draw
there. You know what I'm saying? It is going to be there. So it's
He can draw what
well,
he can draw a picture of the lower entry.
All the block and brick has been removed. There's 3 openings there now.
So what we are asking, Charlie, is that you will submit a drawing with a flat roof that will be above the porch.
Okay.
And we will also ask that you could submit a drawing of what the entryway will be like underneath the steps so that we understand what that looks like so that it is consistent with the time period.
Okay, now you have to understand this doorway that goes to the basement is not going to look anything like the door that's going into the first floor.
No,
because
it's just a door.
Oh, no. I expected to, Charlie, I almost thought, well, that you would actually build the door yourself. I mean, but it would be historically correct. Like you would, like what?
I can paint it, but I can't build it.
I want to make a really quick comment, and that is, once the drawings are submitted and the board approves it, it's what you have the permission and ability to build. And I'm a little concerned. What we're looking at here, the existing front door, which I'm reading the word existing on, that's not what's there. What is there is an original door to the 1840 period house. And that door is not an 1840s door. That's like, I don't know what kind of a door that is. So it's really important that you ask your architect where he's saying something's existing is to draw what's existing, because that's what's going to get approved. And if this board were to approve this drawing, you could go to Home Depot and buy that door. And the purpose here is to preserve what is historically intact. That front door doesn't look like that. And that's what should be drawn, so that when the board approves what you're proposing, we know you're preserving what's there.
Okay.
That's kind of important.
After all this work, Zach, you know I'm not going to Home Depot.
No, this board, I'm sorry, the board can't approve on, because we've already had a little bit of a misstep here in terms of things getting built before they were approved. So I think it's very important that moving forward, that what is going to be preserved is represented accurately in the drawings, because that's what gets approved.
Okay.
Because this board has no involvement in a project after the approval has been done. That's the job of the building inspector. So I just want to see those details, you know, in the drawings. I think that's important.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question, Charlie? This is not, I'm not asking you to add number 17. I just point of information for me. How are you draining the lower entrance?
How say that again?
How are you draining, like for rainwater, snow? How are you draining that lower access to the lower?
It's already in. He put a three. I think he said the name. Some kind of. He's got a thing in the middle of the
dry well,
and then he's got 2 dry wells on either side. So I don't think there'd be any issue with it's filling up with water down there. And of course, you're going to have the porch over the top of it. So.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, all right, Charlie, we look forward to the new plans being submitted as we just discussed. And we look forward to hearing you when you go back.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
I'll talk to my architect. I get another bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll make a motion to table 6 Rector Street. Is that correct?
Yes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Charlie, when are you expecting to be back?
We're coming back on March 21st, but I can actually make the next meeting. Is it the 27th, you said?
Yes, the next meeting is the 27th.
Okay, I'll try and have him get that done before then.
Okay.
Oh, okay. We're in good relationship so far. Little fighting, but not bad.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
We're going to now move on to 8 Jesse Halsey Lane.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
Bye-bye.
Anyone here?
It's Nicholas Marco
8 Jesse Halsey.
or Ricardo.
Should be Ricardo. He's the next one too. So. Guess we go to discussion.
Okay, so the next 2 items, both 8 Jesse Halsey Lane and 22 Meadowa, are Ricardo is the applicant. So it does not look like he's here.
Okay.
Which means I think we'll go to discussion items. And let's go then to 152 Division Street for discussion items.
Sorry.
Good evening, board. You want me to go ahead?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay.
You want to introduce yourself?
Yep. Matt Ivan, Suffolk Environmental. Heather, can I share the screen right off the bat or no?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. All right. I'm going to give you guys a quick background. Just bear with me.
Great.
Okay. Can you guys see the survey?
Not yet, but we know that you're on there.
See the list.
How about now?
No.
You still can't see it?
No.
It says I'm screen sharing. And I have the survey.
If you can open up the PDF.
Interesting. Okay. I'll do it again. Still nothing?
No.
No, we see your list of all of your images, but
yeah, I know. All right, hold on. Let me try it a different way. All right, let me stop and go back in. All right, how about that?
It's working on it. There you go.
There we go.
Yes.
Oh, thank God. All right.
That's that.
Blow it up. God, there's like a challenge of my day. All right. So let me give you thank you for your time, by the way. This is a discussion. We just want to, give you guys a little bit of background on this project. I don't know if you had a chance to look at our submission, but let me give you a quick background on this house. This house was constructed circa 1842. And since then, there's been several, if not many, renovations since then, resulting in various additions and dormers being added to it. At one point during the 60s and 70s, the interior of the house was carved up to become separate apartments. Since then, at one point, it's been renovated back into the single family dwelling that you see today. Just to give you an idea of what's out there, let me just zoom in a little bit here. So the property consists of a 2-story frame dwelling. There's a rear concrete and brick patio, well, patios with brick, concrete walks and slate walks over here, detached frame cottage in the back, right here. Got a shed and concrete driveway. I'm gonna stop sharing and I'm gonna, hold on one second, I'm gonna bring in something else. All right, let me know if you see that.
Nope.
God, this is so annoying. All right, hold on. Should have it now. Okay, how about that?
It's coming. There you go.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to really quickly walk you guys through what we're planning on doing. I'll try to make it as simple as possible and as efficient as possible. So overall, what we are planning on doing is doing a renovation of the existing 2-story dwelling, both exterior and interior, which is going to include for the replacement of all existing doors except for the front door and side lights, all windows, siding, casings, fascias, trim, and roofing. We're going to also do, up here we have a northerly addition. It's a bit small. I'll zoom in a little bit so you have an idea. See that right there in the pink right there? That's the northerly addition. We're going to fill in that space there. And we're also going to construct a westerly addition off the rear of the house. This is also filling in space. Right now it's taken up by a patio, or actually there's a concrete patio and a brick patio underlying here. We're also going to take, there is an existing stoop here that is currently wood. We're going to replace that with bluestone. On this side entry, there is an existing wood stoop made out of concrete and brick. We're also going to turn that into bluestone. We're going to renovate this basement access in place in kind. We're going to remove the existing concrete driveway, which starts obviously from the street, extends all the way back to a gravel area. We're going to, instead, we're going to put pavers in lawn. It's a little bit better, I think, for the environment overall. We're also going to remove the existing rear and brick patios and install an overall bluestone patio with a trellis over top, as you can see right here. Off of that, in the central area of the rear yard, we're going to install a proposed pool with an adjacent bluestone patio right there. The other thing too is all those concrete walkways we're going to remove, and in place we're going to put a bluestone pathway which leads from the end of the driveway to the cottage over in this area. I can't zoom out. We're also going to add some fencing off the southwestern corner of the house with a gate, some fencing off the northeastern corner of the house with a gate, and we're going to place in HVACs off the northeastern section of the property. We're also planning on upgrading, removing the old sanitary system and upgrading to a system in this general area. Wow. So real quick, so the intent of the improvements are, the owners are living here year round. They have 4 children. They want a home that is going to be comfortable for them. And again, they're going to be here full year round. what we're hoping to do also is to restore the dwelling, especially the front facade, to something more consistent with what you see with the surrounding development within the historic district. I have photos, I have elevations, all sorts of stuff. I'm also here with John Whelan and Michael Lamont, the architects involved in this. So we're here really, to hopefully answer any and all questions, kind of get an idea of your concerns and try to give you an idea of what we're going to do, kind of clear up things. But as they talk, I can kind of walk you through with photos and plans and elevations. So that being said, we're here to answer questions.
Just need to see some elevations.
Okay, I'll bring those up.
Yep.
And John, are you available to talk? John Whelan?
Yes, can you hear me there?
Yeah.
And Michael Lamont, Michael's here. Michael's a partner at Stella Lamont Rouhana here.
All right, I'm gonna try to bring it up.
Yes. Hey, Matt, do you want to start with existing photographs to just show what the house looks like first?
Yep. Let's see if I can actually do it. All right, hold on, just bear with me here. Okay, I'm gonna get lucky. All right, let me know if you can see that, you guys.
There you go.
Yes.
Beautiful. Okay, John, why don't you, I'll just flip through and you tell me when to go.
Yeah, Michael's going to take the lead here, Matt.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Michael Lamont from Stella Lamont Rouhana Architects. So just looking at the front of the house, as Matt said, that there's the front, you can sort of see the front is a composition of shingles. There's some aluminum siding around the back, the red painted shingles. And
red painted shutters or shingles?
Shutters.
Sorry, red painted shutters. Sorry.
Shutters.
And then
okay.
yes.
Yep.
Sorry about that. And then so we're looking at keeping the existing front door and keeping that. As Matt mentioned, the existing stoop is kind of a wood frame deck. So we thought that would be more in keeping with the historic district to have just a simple bluestone walkway going up to the front door and a bluestone stoop.
It should be wood.
Wood.
You think it should be wood?
It should be wood.
Okay.
Yeah. That would be consistent with the historic district. So bluestone is a modern idea and not compatible with the house.
Okay. So we can just do a bluestone walk and then do the wood frame stoop. Yeah. We'll be replacing the fence in the front as well. This low picket fence. I think, Matt, do you want to go around the side of the house? I think then you can see, because I think our intention was really to, really restore the front of the house. And then when you go around the side, you can see that some additions that have taken place over the years. And then you see the aluminum siding. Yeah. Okay. There's a fair amount of deterioration in the building throughout. And then you'll see that one shed dormer that's on the north side. And then coming over to the south side as well, that there's a couple of these shed dormers and these roof lines that weren't really thought out. So it's created some additional deterioration on the buildings.
Can I ask
this piece?
One question? Where they're just keep it on this side, please. Where they have this door where they generally enter, that is not on your existing drawing. You only show the single window in the first addition that comes out. You don't show the door.
Yeah, that was a computer glitch. We've updated that, and Matt will show you those drawings, Chairwoman.
Okay.
Michael, do you want me to move forward?
Yeah, so you would go ahead and keep moving around to the back side of the house, and then you can sort of get the gist of it. Yeah. So then you see that there's, basically an assembly of additions and pieces that have been added over the years. So, the architectural intention is to really kind of take off some of these pieces that have been added that are not really coexisting well with the more traditional shapes and certainly the spaces inside as well. And then, but respecting the majority of the roof lines that really kind of dominate the overall form. And then adding similar roof lines where we needed the additional space and to deal with some of the unusual intersections of some of the existing plan elements. I think, Matt, do you want to go ahead and go to the proposed drawings?
Okay.
Maybe, Matt, you could actually show the existing front elevation, Michael, just to show, clarify that. Or go right to the proposed, whatever you want. I'm sorry, go to the proposed. Go ahead, Matt. I'm sorry.
Well, all right, so what do you guys want to propose? Which elevation now? The
proposed and existing, that you can show us at the same time,
okay.
Proposed and existing.
All right, let me do existing first. I can't, yeah, I'm gonna do existing elevation south and east. So just let me know if you can see that.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Okay, let me know.
Okay.
Yep, we got it.
Okay, so that's the existing.
Down there.
Yeah,
on the bottom.
Yep. Yeah, I'm gonna bring that a little closer so you can get an idea here. Okay.
Okay.
All right, you want to switch over to proposed?
Yeah.
It looks so much more grand in that.
Yeah, the drawings make the house look, the existing house look all plumb and square, which it's not.
Yeah. I mean, it looks, you know.
All right, hold on. I gotta jump out and jump back in again on this for some reason. And I hope this is the right one. Oh, that's actually the rear. I apologize.
No.
Right.
It would be EX201 you're looking for now.
No, I know. I just, I actually relabeled them to make it easier, but hold on. Here it is. Okay, I'm gonna bring that up.
Yeah, that's the proposed.
Yep. Okay.
So essentially the front of the house will look like it is now. We'll certainly, you know, replacing the siding, replacing the gutters, proposing to paint the shutters a gray instead of the red that's there. There's some other houses around the historic district that the gray shutters and the white clapboard siding have just a nice, just coexist nicely. So that's what we're proposing. Keeping the a blue door with some color that's there. And but essentially the front of the house will look, you know, pretty consistent with as it has.
What does that fence look like? I know there's a picket fence there now, but this fence looks different.
Yeah, what we're proposing, it's kind of a flat 3-inch wide low picket fence. So we were proposing something a little bit more slender, just vertical 1-by-1 wood pickets that had, and certainly the landscape will be enhanced along the fence and in the front yard. But basically and essentially a 1-by-1 painted white picket fence, cedar picket fence.
I think the biggest problem is that your back additions to the left and right of this front block rise several inches, perhaps a foot or so above the existing roof line of the old house. And by doing that, and by bringing those extensions left and right out to a full new gable roof, they really make the front subservient to the back. And that's let me just complete.
Yeah, sure.
That's kind of the reverse relationship that the board is going to look for. You know, even though the house has been extended in all sorts of ways, left and right and back, and none of those roof lines work anymore and all the rest of it, some of them are old. So for example, when you're looking at the house this way to the front, to the right on the existing house, there's like a little false fronted,
you
know, which, if you think of old Western movies, okay, that conceals the shed roof behind it. That's an early feature. So I think just in terms of presentation, I would only suggest it's so much easier for me and the board to see existing and proposed on the same piece of paper, so that you can go from the front to the west to the north to blah, blah. And so not like two existing, two new on two separate parts. It makes it very hard to compare. So I just think if you could reattach these files so that you've got existing and proposed on 4 elevations, that's going to be much easier to digest. But the other problem, that's presentation. But the other thing is that I think if you keep in mind that the board is going to want you to preserve not only the existing structure in the front, but also its impact upon the street, so that what you're adding steps down and back, so that you're preserving the impact of that. That's going to be important, and this kind of overwhelms it a bit, I think.
I think, Matt, can we go to the side elevation? I think
Michael, before we leave, I just want to comment to Mr. Stunderoff. Yeah, I think in drafting this also, we would show, you would not see those back additions from the street so pronounced as they are there. They really should be kind of grayed back, because certainly from the front of the street, you're not going to see them coplanar as they seem to appear now.
Okay, however you want to present it.
Yeah. Go ahead, Michael.
So Matt, if you go around to the left side, I think you'll see the relationship of the proposed roof lines to the existing roof line at the street side.
All right, so we want proposed elevation south and west?
Yes.
Okay. Bring it up. Okay. All right, how's that?
Yeah,
Can you guys see that?
Yes. Yes.
All right, Michael, do you want to focus on the top or the bottom for you?
I guess it's the same comment. Is it possible for you to open up 2 PDFs at the same time, side by side, if you just make them smaller?
That sounds like a challenge.
Wow. Okay.
No.
I mean,
I can try, but I think you're going to lose a lot of the visuals. You know what I mean? I can try. I'm not saying it's going to work, but let's give it a try.
If you share your desktop, you should be able to, Matt.
Yeah, because I think what we're looking at is when you're coming around the street side on this top elevation, you see that the gabled addition, basically steps back, so that drawing in the front, I think was a little bit misleading, that it seemed like the new roof line was coming all the way up to the front.
Yes.
Well, but from the side, and remember, I think one important thing to keep in mind, which is unique to the Sag Harbor Village Code, is that this is not just about what is in the public way or what can be seen from the street. The code covers every side that can be seen from a neighbor. So every elevation, every side of what you're proposing falls within the.
Sure, I feel like what the elevation we were just looking at was a drastic improvement over the existing house.
You're the architect.
Yeah. No, I don't.
We want you to feel that way. I'm simply saying.
We have 4 good elevations here.
No argument there. But when you're looking at the side that you're proposing, you're doubling the house. You got the front. We've got it. Wonderful. Off to the right there. So now you've got the front, which is the original, and now the back, which is all new and rising up. And so you've doubled this building, and you've raised the roof off the back by a little bit for whatever reason. What I'm simply saying is that typically what you're building off the back is scaled a little smaller and steps down so that you maintain the front as the primary dwelling. It's just that's the general approach. Yeah.
I think the massing, the rear gable has basically, we've turned it perpendicular to clean up all those carbuncles and little additions and things that were added on over time, and that was the intent here.
I think it would be helpful, Matt. We're looking at, can we look at the driveway side elevation of the existing house? We're actually looking at the other side.
Yeah, we're looking on the lower left, Michael. That's the driveway. EX200 on the lower left, Michael.
Oh, you want the side of it?
That's the front.
Yeah, we're looking at the driveway elevation on the upper right.
Oh, yeah.
See the existing driveway upper elevation next to that, because we're looking, it's reversed. We're looking at the other side.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes.
So I think that's why it's misleading. It seems.
Oh, yes.
I think
I'm sorry.
You need to look at the existing volume of the house.
Yes, of the north elevation.
So
correct.
just the other drawing, Matt, the other existing elevation sheet.
Yeah, you need the other existing.
You can leave the one that's on the right and then put the other existing sheet of elevations on the left.
Yeah, it's EX201. That one, yes.
Question is, can I take this? Hold on.
You just got to get your.
All right.
Yes.
There you go.
That's about as big as I can make it, though.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a better drawing because I think when we were looking at the other drawing with the other side, I think it was misleading. So I think that now you can see the scale of what's happening on the driveway side of the existing versus the proposed.
Yes.
Well, I think that dramatizes how much larger you're looking to make this house, and the massing, as you said, of the new at the back is it's as great as the existing. I would suggest that you try to scale that back.
Yeah. Now, I guess my point was that the gable that's intersecting, turning the corner to the front street elevation is the existing gable that's there.
To the right.
Yeah, because I think that you made a comment looking at the street side, looking at the gable that's beyond that street elevation seemed out of scale. But I think that you're seeing now when you see the building, the existing building, we're actually, that existing gable that's there as you turn the corner on the driveway side, we're actually leaving that roof line. We're not increasing that roof line. That's to remain.
Right, but you're increasing the mass of it
100%. Yeah,
considerably, and you're bringing it forward from what it exists to the left, so that when you see it from the front, it's presenting a roof that doesn't presently exist, and it's just as high as the front one. So I'm just saying, overall, what you're proposing to build is just fairly large, and it's fairly large.
Okay.
That's my input.
Sure. So then I think that if we can, so Matt, do you want to let's keep the, actually this is a good drawing because you see that on the bottom side, you can compare the existing rear elevation that's on the bottom left versus the proposed rear elevation that's on the bottom right.
Yes.
Okay. And are they the same?
The same? No, as you, the existing rear elevation is the bottom left drawing that shows sort of the pent roof that kind of continues down over the addition that's on the left side.
But you're taking that addition away, right?
You're taking it away.
We're taking that away. We're actually squaring that back of the house off.
Right.
And taking off the little doghouse that's on the right side that you see. That's on the right side of the existing house, and then we're squaring that back off, so it's basically a gable with a transverse gable behind it.
So my question is the height of the rear roof line, where you're gonna have the two windows above the, looks like sliding glass windows, is that the same height as the existing, or is it higher?
It's slightly higher than the ridge of the existing roof that's on the left.
Yes. Yeah.
And there was some headroom issues to try to get in that rear bedroom because we are trying to, our clients have 4 kids, so we were trying to put, the small bedroom. So we had to get creative to get around some of these halls with lower ceiling heights, and that was necessary to have a accessible hallway there.
So I think the next part of this question is the roof line that we're talking about, the newer, higher roof line, visible from the front street, or is that a lower height than the original roof line?
It would be the same. It's fairly the same height as you see on the upper right, except for from the street. It's, you know, that roof is hidden by the main volume on the street, basically.
Right. So from the street, it's the same. The scale is the same as it exists today, but the scale is larger as you turn the corner. We actually thought we did a better job as you turn the corner with the driveway scale with introducing this second gable to kind of break the scale down of that existing driveway side elevation, but there certainly is more volume on the driveway side. But from the street side, the existing gable is the same height as it is now, as we're proposing it to be.
You're also doing something with all those windows, and I think if you sat through the earlier portion of this meeting, you know that that's not the best approach.
Do we know what are the windows? We don't. I mean.
Well,
I'm sure you know, but we don't know what kind of window.
Well, okay, so right. So I'm just looking at the way the existing conditions are drawn, and I'm looking at the two windows on the upper story as being, you know, I'm thinking 6/6, and they seem to be relatively narrow. They've at least been drawn different from the ones downstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but none of the windows that are represented on the left, which is existing, are surviving on the right, which is proposed. And I think some considerable attention is going to have to be given, not just to the windows, but I would say in terms of reception of a large, you know, large additions and renovation of the existing, that the more you can show that you're preserving, the better the project.
Yeah,
so
if I can,
increasing the footprint and the scale and the massing and all the rest of it of the house itself, and together with that, if you're discarding original windows, to me this is not a positive element. I think you want to be preserving as much of the front, not just the doorway. The doorway is fabulous. It's an original Greek Revival period door and side lights and all the rest of it. That's assumed. That's a major character defining feature, but so are the window sashes.
I apologize. Can I just comment here again? I apologize. That's on the upper left. On the upper, those windows existing are 6/1s, and I apologize for that glitch there. We are we are proposing to replace all of the windows in the house, as Matt mentioned, with 6/1, the same configurations, true divided insulated glass, and we are proposing to make them.
Not again.
Well, we've just been through that.
I know.
We've just been through that, and I wanted to suggest.
I'm curious about what the windows that are there now, what they are. Are they original? Are they not? I mean, are they aluminum? I don't know. I don't remember.
They're older wood. They're older wood. They are 6/1. They're quite old. I mean, I'd have to examine. It's hard for me to tell. Mr. Stunderoth would know better, but
we can provide that service.
Yeah. We are proposing to make to make the windows larger to allow the same configurations, to allow more daylight, obviously, and also to allow egress, fire code egress on the second floor existing windows. It's only like a 3.75 square foot opening, and they don't meet code for egress, and they just had a new baby. They've got 4 children. So we certainly want to make sure there's plenty of room to get out if you had to.
Well, you have to meet code, of course. The board understands these things, but to the extent, I mean, it's not uncommon, interesting enough, for earlier owners to take the old 6/6s and to pop out the lower half and put in a single pane and modernize with a 6/1. So the upper sashes may be old and original. The lower halves may not. This is going to take, a little investigation to help you kind of end up with something that's preserving what you can.
Yeah, I did listen to the previous with Chris Coy. I listened to all of that. These, again, it would be kind of the same discussion, because these are single pane. If you were to keep them, you'd have to you'd have to put on a storm panels and that sort of thing, and that would kind of kill that. So the idea here is to eliminate the storm panels and put in a new insulated 6/1s that are meeting the spirit of what's existing.
Well, it sounds like.
Let me just digress a second, because we talk about massing and additions. What's the difference in usable interior square footage in the original versus the proposed?
Let's see. Give me a second. So
okay.
I don't have those exactly right here, but I can tell you now that I can say that roughly the existing footprint. Oh, sorry. I'm just on my computer trying. I don't have that number. We have to get those to you. Yeah.
I see that the existing residence is 1,527 square feet.
That doesn't sound on the first floor, maybe. Yeah.
Yep. This is just, building coverage.
Yeah.
But we don't, and I realize it's a discussion piece, but that will be something that we are going to need to know the existing as opposed to how much addition you're looking at.
Right. So we have, I'm showing about the existing the existing habitable space is approximately 1,490 square feet. And we are adding to that, we're adding the one dormer, the one addition in the back is 235 square feet. And the other little dormer on the north, not dormer, addition on the north is 50 square feet. So we're adding about 285 square feet to the first floor.
Oh.
And how about
these drawings don't represent that.
Not at all. You would think it's 4 to 5 times.
On the first floor. On the second floor, we are adding more, and that's where that massing comes to, because we're trying to make some livable space on the second floor for this family.
Hey, Matt, do you want to weigh in on the areas? Because we have the existing areas on the first and the second floor versus the proposed areas.
Yeah, I'm actually going by what you guys gave me as well.
Yeah, that should be on those plans.
All right. Yeah, give me a second.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Yeah, I might have that. Let's see. Oh, I beg your pardon. I have that here. I have some of that. The proposed. I have coverage here. Yeah. Let's see. Pardon me.
We can go back to the windows if you prefer to talk about that.
I think we've covered that.
We don't need to talk about them.
I'm just, because it looks like, as everyone seems to be saying, or at least from my eyes, this is a massive expansion. And I was hoping the square footage could give us some sense of volume or dimension here.
Yeah, I do have that for you now. The second floor, the existing area on the second floor is approximately 1,035. And we are adding on 565 to that at the second floor.
Uh-huh.
You give us totals before and after?
Sure.
So that's about 2,000 square feet. What is that? 1,600 square feet upstairs. And what was your downstairs?
Yeah, the existing is 1,035 on the second floor. If you want to jot these down, because I'm moving my computer. On the second, we're adding 565. That's the second.
That's the second. Okay.
Yeah, now I'll give you the first, if you bear with me a second here. On the first floor, we have an existing GFA of approximately 1,490, and we are adding on the rear addition of 235 and another addition of 50 square feet. I have these somewhere in the file I can get to you too.
Okay, that's easy enough to do. So 50, 285.
You're going.
149285.
So the impact of this is far greater than what the numbers suggest.
Right, so you have 1775 on the ground floor, and you have 1600 on the second floor.
Okay.
You're going from 2525 to 3,360.
Right.
So I think as we think about the additions, and we understand what you're trying to accomplish, but we don't want the addition to overshadow the front existing home. So you need to think about, and maybe it's just the way the drawings are looking to us, but clearly it looks like the rear is overwhelming
front,
the existing front.
The tail is wagging the dog.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of getting headroom. If you see those windows are up at 6'8" on the proposed, you know, we're working with sloping roofs, even with this scheme as it is, with these gables, transverse gables, to try get some headroom in the bedrooms there.
Well, the issue often comes down to a relatively small, this is a 1.5-story house to begin with, which has already been enlarged. It was transformed with that front facing gable, which made the attic or you know, partial second story livable. It has all those extensions off the back.
Yeah.
So, you know, successive generations have, within their means, attempted to make this a larger dwelling. Yeah. But it's never going to be a full 2-story house without transforming its original features, which are define the scale of the house. You know, not every house can be what every client wants it to become, because the scale of what's there is the controlling, you know, module, and what you build on, you know, really needs to fit within the scale and massing of that. And, and make minimal impact on the street. So, you know, those are just kind of guiding principles.
I think that the gable, when you look at the upper left drawing, the gable that's there is, we were intending to leave that there. And I think that's what's creating some scale problems with the existing front of the house. So that's not something we were, you know, we proposed. We're actually having that first gable remain. And I think that's starting to create the scale problems that we're talking about. So that's part of what's there. And certainly the gable that's to the left of that, the new addition heading toward the back, was something that we had proposed that we thought coexisted with that existing gable that's, you know, that may overwhelm the front, but it has been there for, I'm not sure how long that side has been there. But I mean, I think so that we're not increasing that gable, but I think we can revisit the scale of that second piece as you go back toward the back. I mean, we thought it you know, it had a much nicer scale than you know, kind of working with what was there. And I think the back of the house has, you know, I think came together nicely compared to what's there. Because I think that there's a lot of things there that were just thrown in when they did those when they cut the house into apartments. So there's a lot of things there that's not something we certainly want to restore, because I don't think there was a lot of thought, including a lot of the windows that are there. But I think we can get to the bottom of that once we do a little more thorough inventory of the existing windows.
Okay, so
good discussion.
I'd ask you to take into consideration. So I don't want to get back and everything. I think you understand that if you can restore some of the existing windows to use them in the house, that would be a goal that we would ask you to also incorporate.
Sure.
Original.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's we'll get to the bottom of that first, but I think that would certainly be something that we would be interested in pursuing as well. That we can look look at the impact of that.
Okay, great. All right, well, we appreciate you coming for discussion, and we look forward to continuing the conversation.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Sorry, but for your next presentation, I'm tending to use the chimney as my reference point for measuring things. Maybe if you could orient the chimneys for your before and after so that they're in the same location, at least it'd be clear for me to understand the changes that you're making.
Okay, sure thing. I think we'll definitely make it a lot easier to read the next time, looking at proposed and existing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, thanks for your time.
Add that door.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
It doesn't look like we have any new participants, but we can call it just one more time.
Okay, just to be sure, is Ricardo on?
No.
Okay, so we can
The next meeting.
next week in January.
Yep.
Okay,
Just need motions.
so to table those?
Yeah.
Okay, so could we have a motion to table, it's 22 Meadowlark and
8 Jesse Halsey.
Jesse Halsey?
I'll make
So
a
moved.
motion.
Second.
Second.
Great. Thank you, everyone. So we can now close the meeting and for all your time and your patience in working through all these different parts. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Oh, wait, you need motions.
We did.
Close the meeting.
Okay.
I thought that's what we did.
You were making a motion before to table Jesse Halsey.
Those two
Now
no-shows.
can we make a motion to close the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Yes.
Bye.